So you may think, why in the world are you getting up this early, especially as a mom? Aren't you tired? How are you going to get the rest you need? How do you find the willpower? And I will get into all of those questions towards the later part of the video. I've got a very active toddler that I'm constantly running around after. He also still wakes in the middle of the night. So, a lot of nights I don't get great sleep. Sometimes I may have woken up at 3 a.m. and have struggled to get back to sleep. So I'll either, if I do fall back asleep, I aim for maybe 5 or 5:30 or any little bit of time before my little guy actually wakes up. But honestly, making the effort to get up before anyone needs me has been life-changing. So I'll get into all the little details of like the quirks of what happens on, days where I don't manage to get up at the time I like and all of those things. I'll get into that in a little bit. But like I say, let's talk about all of the changes that you will see if you can manage to make the effort. So whether you're single or in a couple, or if you're a mom like I am, we're all needed in different ways. So, if you're single, maybe you need your to-do list needs you, or your friends or something, work. There's always something going on where it takes your attention away from you and your needs first thing in the morning. It's really easy to wake up and get caught up in maybe what you need to do or where you need to go. Maybe you're distracted. You're already thinking of your, tasks for the day or your work. So it doesn't really matter. This video is going to help you, really, whether you are a mom like me or not. But obviously, if you are a mom, you might find that you have a lot in common in the sense that even though you're in the same stage of life that I am in, for example, you have a young kid that keeps waking up, then it might be interesting to you to hear about how I make the effort to keep waking up early. But I just wanted to touch on the point that, whether you are in this season of life or not, whether you're a mom or not, it's still going to apply to you. These tips will still help you to make sure that you prioritize yourself rather than just going straight into being needed. So obviously as a mom, it's way harder to get time for yourself. Your kids constantly, genuinely really need you, especially depending what age they are. But, my little one is just about 18 months, and when he wakes up, he basically immediately needs me. He might want to breastfeed, or he's climbing on me, or he's pointing at things around the room, wanting to start exploring, or he's talking, or he's moving, he wants to get down from the bed. So any number of things. It's basically go, go, go from the moment when he wakes. Now, obviously, like I said, if you're not a parent, you might find that it's go, go, go from the moment that you wake because you have other distractions taking up your mental space. So, again, just going back to my personal situation, being a mom, imagine I haven't even opened my eyes yet and someone is already demanding something from me or, genuinely really just needing something from me. And, of course, with kids, especially young kids, it's always very urgent, the way they demand things, and it all feels very stressful and demanding. And, for me, I felt like I haven't even opened my eyes yet. I haven't even gotten a handle on waking up, and I'm already being thrown into the deep end. Do, talk, entertain, chat, respond, be present. It was so overwhelming. I didn't even have a second to wake and be a human being before I was already being just pulled in every direction. So, I realized that it would be important to try and make a change in this situation, which is where I got started. Just trying to think about what I could do differently. I also want to mention that the title of this video I take from another YouTuber that I sometimes watch, and she's quite funny. Her name is Anna Bay. I'll just link her channel just so that you can see. But she actually has a video called My Unhinged 4 a.m. Routine, and I just thought that was really funny. So that's where the title of my video comes from as well. It's kind of playing off of her title. But I just thought it'd be really funny to do it as a toddler mom. But yeah, I got to thinking that it was time to make a change, and I just couldn't keep going the way I was going because it just wasn't it wasn't making me happy, it wasn't working, and I definitely was not able to give anywhere near the best version of myself, nowhere near. For me, before kids, before I had my kid. My morning routine was so sacred to me. I would wake up in complete peace and silence. I would open all of the windows. The house was completely still. There was no noise. I could just feel the fresh air and breathe. And I would meditate, or I would do yoga. I might even do 2 hours of yoga before I was even needed for anything. And I'd also like set up my life so that I wasn't working. I wasn't living to work. So that means I was not working full time. I was able to work, part time. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that I was very much in control of my time. I was managing it very well. I was using it to focus my life on living in tune with myself, with my values, and just trying to be happy every single day, trying to build a life I didn't feel like I needed a vacation from. And alongside a lot of other things that make you feel like that about your life, one of the main things is having that time management, obviously, of your day-to-day. Not feeling like you need to be here and there and you have no control over what's going on in your day. So pre-kids, that was me. I was very in control of my day. And it was all just completely set up around the way that I wanted it to be set up. My work, again, I was very lucky to be able to set a finish time at my job that was what I wanted, that worked for me, for my schedules, for my routines, for the things that I actually needed to do in my private life. So everything was, the whole time of my day was around what worked for me. Now, with kids, that's just not a reality, right? Unless you take matters into your own hands and you basically really think about where you can make changes to create that space for yourself. So for me, again, because it was very important to have that morning time, I realized that once I was thrown into the deep end constantly of just like waking up really groggy and not being able to even like do anything or focus, and just feeling really upset that he was already needing me and I couldn't even I haven't even opened my eyes, and he was like maybe asking to breastfeed, and breastfeeding makes you like very sleepy and tired because it releases this like hormone that makes you relaxed. I can't remember any of the things now, but that was another thing that was like, well, I don't really want to breastfeed first thing before I've even woken up, because it's just gonna make me feel like I want to fall back asleep. So anyway, it's not to talk about the details of every single aspect of what I had going on, but it's just to say I was in no way in control of my morning time. And when you compare it to what my mornings used to look like before, and they were set up like that to help me thrive, my mornings now were nothing like that. So I realized I had to make a change, like I said, and I started kind of, like I said, thinking about where I could make changes, and I realized that it was important. It was basically, I'm going to be honest, I think it's necessary. I'm going to say it's necessary to make that time in the morning. I journal. I study the things that I like to study. So, for example, my Buddhism. I've always been very open in terms of different faiths. So I don't call myself any particular faith. I don't say I'm this or that. And I like to kind of take the wisdom of several different faiths. So I will do a session of Bible study, I will do a session of Buddhism study, and it's not to be I'm trying to tell you that you have to have religion. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that for me, that moment of mindfulness and presence, and I'm saying, I feel like you can get that from any spiritual text that resonates with you. And for me, those are Buddhism, that is Buddhist texts, especially the works by Thich Nhat Hanh. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. But his works are the ones that I open every single morning, and I just maybe read a passage or read a page or whatever, and I reflect on that. And usually, when I believe when you open up one of these books, it's usually going to tell you something that you need to hear at that time. And even if it's not, it's always a good thing to kind of reflect on. But again, what I'm trying to get at is not about that you have to have a faith or do what I do. You don't have to do that. I'm just trying to say this is one of the things that I do because it helps me be really grounded, and it makes me feel really great. I get to really reflect on things, and it gives me fantastic positive perspectives. And this is my key point. Doing that first thing in the morning before doing anything else really puts me in a positive and calm frame of mind. So that's the complete difference to where I was before, kind of just waking up out of control, no time to myself, and just like no positive words or perspectives to help me reframe my mindset. It was just like blah, right? But whereas if I wake up and I've made that time and the first thing I do is read some positive words, like I don't mean like positive words like you can do this, I just mean like positive like wisdom, like texts, when I read those things. And it could be like books like Khalil Gibran, The Prophet. It could be like whatever resonates with you. But yeah, getting those perspectives, those kind of like, yeah, like there's no other word for it, like positive, like doing good, being gracious, being kind, being patient, all of those like really good, important values, having those things first thing in the morning when you wake up, having those reminders really sets up your frame of mind for the rest of the day. It certainly does for me. And it has completely changed everything about how I feel day to day. Like, again, I've mentioned this in other videos, but when when you have kids, they start entering into different phases and you don't like know what's coming next. And then before you know it, you're maybe in like a new phase where maybe they're more demanding or they need something different or they're more active or whatever, different things like change. And then you might find yourself that the rhythms that you had before are no longer best suited to the rhythm that is now present in your life. So that's why it's always important to kind of evaluate if where you're at and what you're doing, the processes that you have in place, if they're really serving you in the best way. And for me, like I said, I realized that making the effort to wake up really early, it is really early. It is really early because, like I said, there's times where I might wake up at 3 a.m. because my son wants to breastfeed. And I'm trying to wean him off night feeds. So I can't just put him on the boob and keep sleeping. Not that I fall asleep while he's feeding, but what I'm trying to say is, if you're a mom and you breastfeed during the night, you know what I mean? Because I'm not doing that, I'm actually actively trying to wean him off of feeding through the night. That means that there's a little bit more of like a battle. I have to talk to him and I have to like console him and comfort him. And usually lately it's been okay, but it is a process. And it means that it might sometimes just completely wake me up because it takes a time for me to comfort him enough that he's back asleep. So sometimes if he's woken up at 3, by 3:30 I might still be awake, having just comforted him finally back to sleep, and then I might really struggle to go back to sleep. So there's days where I might be up from basically 3 a.m, and I just want to be honest, yes, those days are a struggle. Thankfully, because I have those practices in the morning, they set me up to be the best version of myself, so that I can handle even those days where I really haven't had much sleep and I am very tired, But I also want to mention that because I co-sleep with my son and because I enjoy going to bed early, I am usually asleep by 9 or 9:30. So even if, and I'm not saying that you should do this, I'm just saying that if you want to, it's a great thing to do actually. But, because you're living a little bit more in tune with the rhythms of the day, especially in the winter. But for example, because I'm asleep by 9, that means 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, I've slept for 6 hours because my son doesn't usually wake from when he first falls asleep. He breastfeeds to sleep and then he doesn't usually wake till maybe 2 or 3 in the morning to feed. So I do get that really long stretch of sleep. So I'm not saying that it's great. And yes, I sleep for 6 hours, wake up at 3 a.m. and go party. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that even on the hard days where it has gone like that and I haven't just had maybe on other nights he might wake up at 2 and I get back to sleep by 3. So I wake up at 5, right? That works a little bit better. But I'm just trying to say that even on the hard days where I don't get that perfect little thing, I still make the effort, I still get up, and thankfully, like I said, because bear in mind that I do fall asleep very early, I do have that little bit of sleep behind me. It's not like I've had no sleep at all. But, there's other nights where, I might not sleep at all, because maybe my son is teething and maybe he's waking up every hour or he missed a nap that day. So his nighttime sleep is horrible and he wakes up every hour. I've just had one of those nights a few nights ago. So, it's important to mention that it's not always going to be perfect. So, yeah, I'm just going to show you now a little bit of the things that I do and talk you through my routine. And then after that, I will explain a little bit about how I basically find the willpower and answer those little bit of questions that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So yeah, keep watching to hopefully be inspired and encouraged to make a change if you need to. So how do I do this as a mom? How do I do this as a mom that has a child that wakes up in the night? And like I explained, sometimes I have bad nights. Well, what I try and do is when my son wakes to feed, depending on what time it is, I obviously feed him to make sure he goes back to sleep. So especially if it's around 4 in the morning, or like I said, 3, I will make sure I give him that feed. And then he will eventually go back to sleep. And I pretty much wake up from there. So if I fed him at 4, he might be back asleep by around 4:20. And then that's when I will, maybe around 4:30, get out of bed. But I do give him that feed before getting up to make sure that he's asleep, because it buys me time. So it usually buys me an hour. Sometimes it buys me even more, about an hour and a half, which is amazing. Having an hour to yourself as a mom in the morning, completely uninterrupted, getting up, being able to do what you need the way you need to without being rushed, without anyone needing something from you, without anyone demanding something from you. It's just, honestly, it's life-changing. I really recommend this. I know it can sound hard, but I'm going to give you some examples now of the difference it makes, even if, and I promise you, because this happened to me, even if you give yourself 1 minute or 2 minutes before your child wakes up. So it doesn't even have to be an hour like I'm doing. I had a day where I just had 2 minutes because I actually fell back asleep. I had all the good intentions in the world, but I fell back asleep. I was very tired. And it was 6:20 when I opened my eyes again, and I thought, oh, he's going to wake up any minute now. Is there any point in me getting up? Is there any point in me doing anything? But I did. I got up. I made the effort, and I only had, I think it was 2 minutes to myself, 2 or 5 minutes to myself. And what I did, the first thing I did, and not that I'm a fan of grabbing your phone the first thing, but I have an app on my phone called First 5. And basically the first thing I did was I opened that app and I just read whatever was the text of the day. And coincidentally, I think it was something about, I can't remember now what it was, but it was something about grace or patience or something, or doing, something like doing God's work. Like, it's a blessing to be able to be here and it's able to be doing God's work. And again, you don't have to believe in God. This isn't about you have to be religious or something. I'm just trying to say, for me, getting that perspective at that time in the morning, I was feeling flustered because I'd missed my wake up time. I knew I wasn't going to get any time to myself. So I was already a bit starting off on a bad foot. And having read that, it actually shifted my perspective completely. It softened me, and it made me feel like, actually, it's okay. I can breathe. Actually, this is a blessing. Actually, this is amazing that I can be here with my son, and I get to be there for him, and get to help him throughout the whole day, and get to be there for him. So it just shifted that perspective of oh, I'm in a hurry. I don't have time. I have only 2 minutes to myself. He's going to wake up any moment, and blah, blah, blah. All of these kind of negative thoughts. Having read that text, it completely turned those thoughts around. So, this is a really, this is one of the things that I recommend. If you have something positive that you can read like that in the morning, that will help shift that mindset and that perspective, boy, do I recommend that you do that. So in terms of what I do, I've already explained a little bit about how I make it happen and kind of problems with waking up too early and this and that. So what do I do once I'm up? Okay, I have no distractions. I get up. I usually get dressed, but if I find it's going to be too noisy, because I can see that my son is basically not the most deeply asleep, then I'll wait to get dressed for a little bit. But as soon as I'm able to get out of bed, as soon as I'm able to unlatch him and put him to make sure he's still asleep, I will roll out of bed. We co-sleep, like I said, and no distractions. I get straight to business. So I get dressed if I can, if it's not too loud. And then I just get right on the floor. I sit on the floor right there next to the bed, and I get my journals out and I just journal and I just read. I read the texts that make me happy, that resonate with me. Like I said, these can be whatever they are for you, or you can read a book that you're enjoying reading, whatever works, as long as you're putting in those good perspectives and those good mindsets. I really recommend that. So like I'm saying, I'm not saying you have to read what I read. I'm just saying pick up something beneficial and positive for you and for your mindset, and that is going to do leaps and bounds. First thing, if you do that, that's going to really help you. So maybe when I'm in a better place, I might do exercise, but for now, that's what I do. I wake up, sit on the floor, get my First 5 app out on my phone, read the text of the day, work through that, internalize that, see what messages resonate with me, journal about it. So I have a specific journal for like my spiritual study, and then I have a kind of like what's called a mindfulness journal, and it's just got like very basic 3 prompts for your morning reflection and 3 prompts for your evening reflection. That's it. So obviously in the morning, after I do my study, I basically kind of feel like that's where I learn, so to speak, the lessons for my day or the intentions that I want to set for my day. So when I go over to my mindfulness journal and it's asking me what are 3 intentions that you want to set for today, I actually do those based off of the work of the text that I've just read. So it might be something by Thich Nhat Hanh, sorry again if I'm saying that wrong, where, maybe he's saying something like, we don't need to keep searching, we have already arrived, you are already home. This for me is a very powerful message because of the things I've been through in my life. So more often than not, this is a very, good one that I come back to and keep working with. So I might have read that and then I set my intention for the day, be present, be mindful. Everything that I do is going to come from grace and patience. This is a blessing. So things like that, that's really great. I will do that for as long as it takes, and that's what I prioritize. So even if I do that half an hour and then my son wakes, I'm happy because I've done, the most important thing that I needed to do, which was to reframe my mindset and be in the best place I can be. So that is what I prioritize first thing. If I've been able to do all of that and I've journaled and I've set my intentions and I've done my mindfulness practice, I've done my gratitude, I've done all of those journaling things, okay? It's been 40 minutes. It's been amazing. After that, I will then take care of myself in the sense that I will go to the bathroom, I'll wash my face, and I'll basically just get myself ready for the day. If I haven't gotten dressed, I'll get dressed. I make sure I'm dressed. Like I said, just wash my face. So I'm perfectly 100% ready to go. So when my kid wakes up, I don't have to worry about anything. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to be there for him. Like, let's go. Let's do this. And I swear to God, this is so life-changing. Like, it's so helpful. It just makes such a big difference, So, yeah, so that is basically, those are the things that I prioritize. It's just my personal journaling time, my study, and then getting myself ready and dressed. So being able to wash my face calmly, and putting my clothes on, etc. If I've done both of those things, this is a really good day now, right? If I've done both of those things, then I might watch maybe like a YouTube video that I find helpful for this season of my life. So like another kind of motherhood video or something that I like, or maybe I will just read my book. There's a few books I'm reading, so I might read one of my books, and then that's it. And honestly, sometimes if I'm able to do all of those things, I sometimes just genuinely, honest to God, just sit there in quiet and just be like, wow, look how much time I have, and just appreciate it and just try and sit back and relax. So, yeah, that is what I do. As you can see, it is not actually a crazy morning routine. There's not a lot going on. I don't try and fit in a billion things. I just really do one main thing and add on 2 things when I can manage, 2 or 3 things when I can manage to fit those in because my son's still asleep. So this is a reminder that your morning routine doesn't have to be full of frills and pretty things. It just has to be what works for you, that's going to set you up for the best way possible for the day. It doesn't need to be crazy stuff. Okay, so back to some of the questions that we had at the beginning of the video, like for example, aren't you tired? How are you going to get the rest that you need? And how do you find the willpower? Now, obviously I've touched a little bit on those things, but I'm just gonna like directly answer them now. Aren't you tired? Yes. I am tired. Yes, I am a mom. I'm tired. Like, I have never been this tired in my life. Like, let me tell you, I am tired. So, yeah, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm not like there, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, yeah, every day I'm full of energy. Like, and I am. I have more energy, actually, surprisingly, since I've started doing this than when I haven't. So I'm going to just touch on that in a sec. But yeah, of course I'm tired. I'm a mom. I'm tired. It's not easy. So, and before I was a mom, when I was making the effort to get up like this and get up early, before I had to go to work, before I had to, before I was needed, I would make the same effort. I would wake up at 5 a.m., between 5 and 6 a.m. That's when I would wake up back then. So I've always been an early riser. But yeah, even back then, there were times where it was a little bit hard, or yeah, I was tired. Maybe, by lunchtime at my job was very mentally like demanding. Thankfully, it wasn't physically demanding, but it was very mentally demanding. I worked in law, so it was like, intense sometimes. Maybe, there were crazy things that I had been asked to do, like I need a brand new, 2 contracts by lunchtime, and you need to compare these 3 and merge the clauses together that is going to work for this It's like, oh my God, like what? I remember this one time I was so brain dead from the hard work that I had to do that I went to get a coffee at like Starbucks, and I just stood there like this, like in silence, like just like blanked out. Like I just couldn't even think. I couldn't even I didn't even have a mind. Like it was so bad. So like, yeah, even back then, even though I didn't have a child, and this is like having a child is way harder. So yeah, even back then, of course, I was tired. I'm just giving you some examples to be like, yes, of course I was tired. Like none of us are robots. None of us are superhuman. We don't, anyone who gets up and makes the effort, they're not like special and they don't get tired and they just have like this capacity to do it all. Like that's not what's happening. Probably they're just trying their best, and probably they are tired just like I am. But this is where I'm going to get into the good stuff. How am I going to get the rest I need? That was the second question. I explained a little bit about that earlier. I'm obviously going to bed really early, so even if I wake up at 3 a.m., I've still had about 6 hours of sleep. So whilst it's not the most amazing amount of sleep, I know that you should sleep more. I'm aware of all of the impacts of sleep on our health. I know, blah, blah. But I just want to say, I want to make the point that this wouldn't be possible, if you were going to sleep later than 9 p.m. So I don't want anyone to have the impression that I'm like up all night to get lucky, and then at 11 p.m. I go to sleep, at 2 a.m. I wake up and I'm like, wow, everything's great. Like that's just not what's going on. I'm asleep really early. Like I am asleep by 9 or 9:30, but I'm genuinely tired by then. I'm not like, okay, gotta go to sleep, gotta go to sleep. No, like I'm just like passed out by then. Like I'm tired. I've been up since like 4 a.m., sometimes 3 a.m. So like, yeah, by 9 p.m. I'm like, I am ready to go to sleep. So that's how I get the rest I need. I just want to make the point that as a mom, you're probably not going to get the rest that you need. That's just not going to happen. But that is how I manage to get a decent-ish amount of sleep, because I go to sleep really early, and I'm really lucky that my son is at a stage where he does not wake up a billion times in the night. So, like I say, of course, we still have bad nights where if he's teething, he will wake up every hour, which means I basically barely slept. So I 100% still have those nights, but thankfully he's not a newborn that's waking up like all the time, nonstop, and everything's like a hassle. It's very different. He's a toddler now. He's 18 months old. Everything's different. So, I'm going to touch on the seasons of life in a sec, but yeah, that's how I managed to get the rest that I need for this season of my life that I need. So how do I find the willpower? This is how I find the willpower. The difference it makes, even when I just have 2 minutes to myself to do it, is life-changing. Is genuinely life-changing. I actually am, even though I'm up so early, I am so energized. I'm so happy. I'm like pumped. I am ready for the day. I'm so excited because I get to sit there on my own, and I've been doing that for years. So I really crave that. I love that. I love that early morning calm and quiet when I'm just there doing whatever I want to do, meditating or yoga or reading or whatever, just that quiet morning time. I've been doing that for years and I value it so much. So having that again after not being able to have it for over a year and a half is just like a big part of my willpower comes from there, because it's something that I love. But really, the real reason is because of how energized and positive and how much of a better person and mom I am when I have that time. So I explained earlier, I only had 2 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever. And it was just enough for me to read something that changed my perspective and set me up for the most perfect frame of mind for my day. So that's why I want to make the point that, even though I just had 5 minutes, that action of not just laying there in bed, feeling groggy, feeling tired, okay, I haven't slept well, he's going to be up any minute, I'm exhausted, and blah, blah, blah. Instead of all of that, I said, okay, I know. Here we go. This is really hard, but I'm going to get up. So I got myself up out of bed. I sat up in bed and I was able to breathe, and I was still frantic with all of these thoughts going on. And I was like, okay, just pick up my app. I'll just read it here in the bed. At least it's something, I said to myself. And lo and behold, I did. I read it there in the bed, just sitting just there on the side of the bed. And pretty much by the time I got to the end of what I was reading and I was able to kind of reflect a little bit on it, then and there, kind of my son woke up. But it was enough that it had completely changed my mindset that morning and changed my perspective. So when I experienced that was another huge reason, huge factor to the willpower thing, because it's I know how good it can make you feel and what a difference it can make. So I think when you know how much it can help you, that is a huge driving force behind the willpower of why you do it. So I think it needs to be something that you really love to do. You have to actually love it. So don't do something because you think that's what looks good, or that's what makes a good morning routine, or that's what so-and-so does in their morning routine. You are your own person. Whatever you love, you have to really, really love it, do that. And if that's watering plants, or like me, you're a crazy person, you like to go outside in the freezing cold and just, I don't know, put your feet on the ground. I love doing that. I love that fresh, cold morning air. I love that. So whatever is the thing that you you gotta love it. That's where your willpower is going to come from. It's going to come from that you have to actually really love it, but also you have to have seen the positive benefits for yourself in order to be excited and having that willpower to want to go and do it. So the willpower definitely comes from there. It's from seeing the benefits and from genuinely loving what I do. And like you saw, it's not like a whole bunch of crazy stuff. It's just whatever works for me. So yeah. Now, the last thing that I want to finish on, I've already touched a little bit on the benefits throughout the whole video. I've explained how it makes it better, but just to sum up, waking up before you're needed, it's going to set you up. These are all the benefits. You're going to have a better frame of mind. You're not going to be as negative. You're actually not going to be as tired. You are going to be more energized. I know it sounds counterintuitive to wake up earlier, but what you get from 1 less hour of sleep in terms of mental health, positivity, patience, like the buffer you're going to get if you do that, rather than just that 1 hour of sleep, which you might not even get or might be interrupted, just staying in bed, right? That's not going to give you anything. So just think, with the other thing, you're getting nothing. With this thing, you're getting mental clarity, positivity, you're energized, you are being given a big buffer of like, yeah, patience and calmness and all of that stuff so you can deal with your day as a mom, which can be intense. So yeah, there are so many benefits to waking up before you are needed. But, you know, whether you are a mom or in a relationship or single or however, like, I've always done this no matter what season of life I was in, and waking up before you are needed sets you up to be the best person you can be for that day. So there's so many benefits for you. But yeah, lastly, I just want to close on, I just have my notes down here. I just want to close on saying what I've already mentioned before, is that please remember that this is not always possible every single day. This is not a kind of thing where you should aspire to have a constant, perfect routine where every single day you do all of the things and it doesn't change. And, you know, that is not realistic. When we aim for non-changing perfection in our human lives, which have a lot of variables, you might have gotten less sleep, you might have an early meeting, you might have something else on your mind, blah, blah, blah. Our lives are constantly having stuff going on. We're not robots. We cannot have the same exact morning routine day after day after day. Don't feel like you failed just because you've done 1 less thing, 2 less things, 5 less things. If you've gotten up, like that day that all I managed to do was just sit up in bed and read for 5 minutes, that's fine. That's okay. That's valid. That's not like you're not doing it wrong. You know, you haven't failed. You know, so there's no such thing as a perfect, ideal way. And, you know, whether you're in a couple or retired or with kids or whatever season of life you're in, you know, the truth is that no matter what your life looks like right now, it's unrealistic to ever aim for perfection. So don't assume that I'm doing this every single day exactly the same way. Every day I'm up at 4, every day I'm up at 5. Like, more often than not, yes, I would say 80% of the time, I'm working hard to make it happen. It doesn't just happen, and I'm not just there like it's all easy. No. It takes hard work and it takes discipline. But the benefits I can see outweigh that little bit of discomfort and tiredness and difficulty. The benefits outweigh those things. That's why, again, going back to the willpower, you have the willpower to do it. That doesn't mean that every single day it's going to look the same or that it's going to be perfect. So just remember that. So yeah, like I explained, one day you might manage 10 minutes, another day you might manage 40 minutes, another day you might manage an hour and a half. So whatever works, whatever you can manage, you know. I just want to finish on saying that what really matters is that you are doing something that really inspires you, really works for you, really makes you happy, and makes you feel energized emotionally, mentally, and if you're doing exercise, physically as well. So yeah, remember, you don't have to be perfect, and no one's expecting that of you. You just have to show up and do your best, and you're already doing great if you're doing that. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video, and I hope you found this helpful and useful. See you in the next video.